Actually, I'm Reverend Dave Schbach. As you might have noticed, I'm not Bill. As Bill is sitting here holding consciousness so that the throat eases into the perfection of being that is back of everything. So there's this saying that I first heard from a practitioner, and I'm sure it's been around much, much longer than that, but a practitioner friend of mine, Sam Brown, from the Center for Conscious Living. And he would always say this every time he got up in front of a microphone. He'd say, God is good. All the time. And so I'm going to say God is good, and you're going to say God is all the time. Okay, so God is good.
All the time.
No, God is good.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. All the time. Doesn't it always seem like that? Doesn't it always seem that goodness is just flowing through our lives in every single moment, and we are recognizing that we're surrounded and living and moving and having our being as an expression of this divine good? Would that it were so. And it can be. You know, it's an infinitely potential universe, and we all have the opportunity to recognize that our good is always present, that we are that good moving about in an individual form in this experience of life. We have that opportunity. And sometimes things get in the way of our recognition of that opportunity. And that's where the rub starts to happen. You know, as part of that reading, you know, there's a law that is responding to our thoughts. It's an infinite principle. It's a natural principle of the universe. It's invisible and often not talked about, so we may not be aware of it, right? But it's out there, and we can use it. And that law that we can use actually has all of the power that ever was, is, or will be. Okay? This is that same law that responded to some divine idea and created all of this, more than we can possibly ever know in human form. All of this. And when you think about all of this, I want you to think about, like, okay, let's think about our solar system. There's a lot of stuff in our solar system, right? It's all moving around. It's only occasionally hitting each other where it's supposed to out in the asteroid fields and all that kind of stuff. Now let's go a little bit bigger. Let's think about the galaxy. Okay? Now, there are more stars than we can count in our own galaxy. And each one of them may or may not have planets, but there's a star full of a lot of stuff that's moving around and having a good time doing the fusion thing and, you know, letting out light and being out there. And, you know, there's a lot of them, right? Which means there's probably a lot of rocks with probably a lot of intelligence rolling around on them. At least I hope so. Otherwise, this is a great waste of space. You know? Okay, let's move it out a little bit more. You know I'm going to say this, guys. Anybody who knows me knows I'm going to talk about the Hubble Deep Field Shot. Have you ever looked at the Hubble telescope Ultra Deep Field Shot? Right after the celebration, I want you to get on your cell phone and look up, I'm serious, look up the Hubble Ultra Deep Field Shot. What it was they pointed the astronomers over at NASA, some pretty smart guys, right? They found a piece of sky that they thought was empty, right? And the relationship, the ratio of it is, if you were to hold a grain of sand at arm's length, right? That's how big this piece of sky would be in relationship to the Hubble telescope looking out into the infinite. And they pointed it out there, and they took this picture for 11 days. And then just to be sure, they went back 3 days later and did it for another 3 days and added to it. And they made this composite image of what was in this little speck of sky. And when you look at this image, you see a field of what looks like stars. Okay, it looks like, you know, when you take a galaxy picture and you're looking at this, except that each one of those stars is a galaxy. Okay, so that's big. That's as much as we can know right now as how big is big. And it's bigger than that. That's the infinite power that has been creating all of this. And that's the good that's back of this. So we say that God is good all the time, and we wonder why we have these experiences that are not in alignment with this God is good all the time, right? Well, the ignorance of the law does not absolve you of experiencing the consequences of using a law. You see, there are these principles that we can come to understand, or not, and those principles are always functioning in our experience, whether you know it or not. So we have a choice to make. We can become conscious of the principles, and in New Thought we always say, we don't demand that you believe this. Come and learn how to do practical prayer. Come and learn to do the spiritual work, and then experiment with it in the laboratory of your life. We don't demand that you believe this. We believe it because we test it and it works. Right? So we invite you to test this in your life, to think, to explore what those principles are, and then to put them into use in your life. Because that good is present right here and right now. At a deep level of reality, the good is always present because this infinite unity of life is not in opposition to itself. So if there is good in a unity of life, and there's only one, then it must be good. Not good and something else, because then it would be two. And not an infinite unity of life. So the good is present, and it is up to us to recognize it in our experience. Now, I'm pretty sure Reverend Bill was going to talk about Emma Curtis Hopkins to some degree, because those of us who love and enjoy reading Emma have this one part that we really kind of hold to very deeply. She made a statement once that this too is good, this too is God, this too is for me now, and I demand to see the blessing in it. And that's kind of sometimes what we have to do with our thinking. So if in our lives that we live within this unity of good, and it is up to us to learn. Okay, we all learn to walk at some point. Anybody here have never learned to walk? I didn't think so. We don't have any babies in the room, so I can say that with confidence. We all learned to walk at some point, but we didn't understand how to do that until we saw somebody working on it. So, ooh, look, they can walk. And you go from crawling to walking. You learn to balance. You learn that there is this thing called gravity that we actually need to utilize in walking every time. Step forward and walk. Right? And you may not have understood gravity as a theorem or scientific principle, but you could sure see the effects of it. Right? How many times we land on our butt learning to walk. This translates into how life goes about, too. There are invisible principles that we can learn from experience to use. We don't necessarily need to know the mechanics of how it actually works, but we can do something and then observe the results, and therefore gain an understanding of what that principle is and how it can work in our lives. And as we expand our understanding, right? In all things, get understanding. As we understand more of how this stuff works, we can more effectively use it in our lives. So we have a choice. We can continue to remain ignorant of the principles which are functioning in our world, or we can use them. It's kind of this point of choice between transformation and stagnation. Now, everybody is free to do exactly what they want, and you are absolutely free in this world and in this life not to utilize the principles and wonder why life sucks. You are perfectly free to do that. Enjoy the experience. Or you can explore what these principles might be and whether or not they work in your life, gain an understanding that we actually have all of the power that we require to live a life filled with good in each moment available to us right now. And if it's available to us right now, why aren't we availing ourselves of it? Fear, confusion, experiences that create an idea of duality, harm done to us, by us. And all of these ideas put a barrier between our use and our experience of good in every moment. and we keep doing it. So it's a real simple idea. Your new life begins with a new thought. To have a new life, you actually have to have a new thought. Because if you keep going with the set of thoughts that you have right now, you're going to keep experiencing what you're experiencing right now. So you actually have to evolve past this place of stagnation. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, honestly, because everything that we have ever done in our lives has brought us to this point right now. And everything that we have ever done in our lives is not going to take us beyond this point right now. So something has to change for us to experience life in a different way. Something has to loosen up from those old ideas, and we need to bring a new idea into this. And the idea that I like to start with, and it's one, just contemplate this throughout the week and see how much it changes your life. God is good.
All the time.
Think about that. If we put that idea into our consciousness and allow that to be the driving power of what is going on in our lives, think of how that changes your experience of life. If God is good all the time, if the good is present in me right now, will that change how I respond to the world? You bet. If I know that good is mine now and whatever is happening out there, I can be this presence and experience good, then I'm going to take a look at the world in a different way. I'm going to look around and say, you know what? There's something for me to learn here in those challenging situations. What is it that I can learn here? Maybe I need to be learning patience and tolerance or clarity and understanding as somebody else is expressing something that is frustrating them in their journey towards good. And how can I be of service in this? What is the highest expression of my being in this moment to be that good that I'm desiring and to be the good that they're actually moving towards, that they're desiring as well? Because I think we all want to have good in our lives. I love that. Doesn't that sound good? I want to have good in my life. I want that good to be present right now. And each one of us wants that. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, you know what, I think I'm going to have a really lousy day, and then I'm going to get angry, and then I'm going to smack somebody. And then I'm going to feel better. Maybe somebody does. I don't wake up doing that, honestly. I wake up a little irritated and I automatically try to go to prayer and say, what is this irritation? You know, life is good. I'm breathing. I'm this side of the dirt. This is something to be grateful for. I'm moving around as consciousness. I have good in my life. I am breathing. I can be an active participant in creating good for myself and others in life. So we get into this, it's very simple to get into negative mindsets. And we just did this in the Beyond Limits class. I'm not going to go through all of them because I don't have my card. But, you know, one of the ways to get out of a negative loop of thinking is to just do some quick affirmations. Right? Like, I am worthy, I'm prosperous, I'm beautiful, I'm healthy, I'm well. You know? You can make up your list ad infinitum. You know, I am plus something nice. I am plus something good. And just start running that through your mind when you get into that negative loop. You know, there's practical application to this stuff, of it being good all the time. We can actually change the way we're thinking. We can have a new thought. And with a new thought, from the one that we were having, we can have a new experience. And sometimes just that 180-degree turn from where we were thinking, to turn away from whatever negative idea we may have had, that we may have been instituting in our experience, to a positive idea. Like, so maybe something's challenging, that you've got some challenging event coming up that you're not really looking forward to. You could turn that around and you know, like, that can get a negative loop going. Anybody ever have that experience? Big meeting, big whatever, something big coming up and your mind starts going, yeah, you're not going to be able to do this. It's going to be really hard. It's going to just hurt. Right? I've got one of those. He's sits over here and goes, I got one over here too. Occasionally they vote me out of office. Sometimes what I do is I turn my mind from that little chattering to that Hubble deep field shot. I think, really? Really? How important is what I'm doing right now in this grand scheme of the good of the universe? And in one sense, it's not. In another, it's hugely important to me. And I'm not going to approach it correctly if I'm sitting there having negative self-doubt talk going on in my mind, chattering about all of the bad things that could possibly happen. So instead, I turn to that positive self-talk, chattering away in my mind. I am prosperous, I am good, I'm capable, I'm clear, I have all of the perfect words that go with this. I actually go a little deeper into a prayer. I'm not going to do that to you right now. But the avenue of changing our thinking to a positive track has this ability to actually bring us into the confidence we're looking for. Right? Got a power pose. Things like that. Whatever you got to do to change your thinking around to recognizing that all of the good, all of the wisdom, all of the power, all of the peace and joy are yours right now. Because they must be yours right now, and mine as well. They are each one of ours. And we have to make ourselves aware of this, because you either use it, these principles, or you use it. That's the good news and the bad news, right? It's always active, and it is responding to our individual thoughts, not only within us as our feelings, but the universe turns around to start saying, okay, we're going to say yes to that. And it brings it about in our experience. That's what we call the law of attraction. When we have a constant idea, and we continue to put our emotional power behind it, it tends to show up in our lives. We tend to act in ways that bring the opportunities to us for that to show up in our lives. We begin to resonate with a certain energy that draws to us, also energy resonating at that same level. This is called worry. Or it is called the law of attraction. And look, the law doesn't care whether you want to use it for something you're going to consider negative or positive, because it's the law. It's a principle. It is active all of the time, and it is moving forward in your life, and you are using it all of the time. And you can choose to remain ignorant of the fact that you are using it all the time, or you can become conscious of that and use it ever in a greater spiral of conscious application of the law. Right? We can always move upward in our understanding and our application of the principles that we discover. And this is true of the natural principles in the physical world. Look where we've gone, fire not too long ago, to spaceships. It's gotten pretty intense in how we've increased our understanding of the physical laws of the universe. There are spiritual principles in the universe as well, which we can increase our understanding of and use them to impact not only our lives, but the lives of our planet. So use it or use it. It's your choice. See, all of the power back of creating this infinite universe, which is more than we can possibly ever know, is present right here, because it's all one. It's an infinite universe. The idea of an infinite universe is it's all of it. It's bigger than I can understand, but it's all of it. It can't be two infinite universes, because then it wouldn't be infinite. So all of that power is right here, right now. All of that good is right here, right now. And it is incumbent upon us, if we want to experience good, to align ourselves with the principles that we can use and to activate them in our lives and to consciously seek their unfolding, don't like using that word, but unfolding into our experience, into our awareness. The power is here for us to use, because God is good
all the time.
and so are you. And so am I. And so it is.
So it is.